Good morning and welcome to today's Finance Committee hearing. I am Julissa Ferreras Copeland. I'm the chair of the committee. I want to begin by thanking my co-chair, Councilmember Inez Barron, chair, and the members of the Higher Education Committee for joining us today. I also wanted to acknowledge the members that have joined us today, Councilmember Vaca and Rodriguez, and I'm sure others will be joining us throughout the day. This morning, the committee continues to look at the mayor's fiscal 2018 executive budget with the City University of New York, CUNY. I want to first thank CUNY's Executive Vice Chancellor, Rita Rabinowitz. Unfortunately, Chancellor Milliken could not be with us today, but we wish him all the best in his recovery. CUNY's executive budget for fiscal 2018 totals $1.1 billion, a slight increase over its fiscal 2017 adopted budget. Significant new items include $1.2 million to support pathways to higher education, which is part of the administration multi-agency Jails to Jobs initiative. The executive budget also adds $751,000 for the Peer Navigator Certificate Program. Before I turn it over to Chair Barron for her opening remarks, I want to highlight a couple of items that I hope can be discussed further at today's hearing. First, I look forward to discussing the impact on CUNY students of the Excelsior Scholarship Program announced by Governor Cuomo this year. While I applaud the governor for highlighting college affordability, the details of the program are problematic as they relate to CUNY students' population. The New York Times has estimated that only between 3,000 and 5,000 of CUNY's approximately 245,000 students will ever receive Excelsior grants. This is due to the fact that 71% of CUNY community college students report gross family incomes below $30,000 a year, which already qualifies them for existing federal and state awards. Furthermore, Excelsior does not address the high cost of living that burden low-income students at its heavy course load requirements makes it difficult for those students who must work to support their education. Second, I hope to hear more about CUNY's planned tuition increase at senior colleges of $200 per year, as well as more about CUNY's discussions regarding tuition increases at community college. What impact does CUNY anticipate this will have on enrollment? Is the university discussing any ways to offset this impact on students struggling to pay tuition? I look forward to hearing about these issues and many more at today's hearing. I will now turn it over to Chair Barron for her opening remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. I'm Inez Barron, and I'm the chair of the Committee on Higher Education. I would like to welcome all of you to our hearing today on the fiscal 2018 executive budget for the City University of New York. We'll be joined by Matthew Sapienza, CUNY's Senior Vice Chancellor and Chief Financial Officer, standing in for Chancellor Milliken. Mr. Sapienza, please extend our best regards to Chancellor at this difficult time. Also joining him is Rita Rabinowitz and Judy Bertram. The chair has talked about the Excelsior Scholarship Program that has been presented and adopted by the state. I need to say that by this program, Governor Cuomo is in fact contributing to the income gap that exists between the upper and lower bands of income. The reason that I say that is that this program adds more students who are in the middle income of $100,000 and disadvantages those students who are at the lower income bands. He's contributing to that income gap, which is widening and widening. As has been stated, lower income students do qualify for TAP and for Pell. Consequently, they need assistance to complete their degrees for the other costs, which usually exceed tuition costs. So, Governor Cuomo, I say to you, shame on you. You need to have considered additional programs that would provide assistance to low-income students who need a college degree, as has been so adequately demonstrated, in order to move out of the lower income bands. They're trapped when they don't have those degrees, because certainly we know that they're required today and for the future jobs. So while the fiscal 2018 executive budget may not have seen many changes since we last met, the state has implemented a number of changes that certainly will have an impact on CUNY's student body. I echo Chair Ferreras Copeland's concerns about the impact of the state New Excelsior Scholarship and its approved $200 per year tuition increases at the community and senior colleges. In my time as chair of this committee, I have made clear my beliefs that tuition should be free at the CUNY colleges as it once was. I look forward to discussing with the Senior Vice Chancellor today how we might work today to avoid adding to the already tremendous burden placed on lower-income students in pursuit of higher education. On the other hand, I do appreciate the fact that the state has implemented a new part-time scholarship program to support community college students. It's not anywhere near the amount that needed to have been presented. So many of our associate degree-seeking students are unable to take on a full course load when they have to balance other full-time responsibilities both at work and at home. I hope that this new scholarship will allow even more aspiring students to take the next steps to reach their full potential. I'm also pleased the state has continued to increase its per capita base aid rate, allowing CUNY to offer higher quality services to its students. And as I'm interested in the city's investment in the Jail to Jobs program, which brings $2 million in programming to assist formerly incarcerated individuals in their transition into higher education. I look forward to discussing these and other items with the university today. I'd like to particularly thank my staff before we begin, my Chief of Staff, Joy Simmons, Indigo Clay, Indigo Washington, my Legislative Director, William Clay, Jessica Ackerman, Senior Finance Analyst to the committee, Kiru Jakiru, my Committee Counsel, and Committee Policy Analyst, Chloe Rivera. Thank you, Chair Ferreras Copeland, and I return the floor to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. We will now hear from the Vice Chancellor. After she's sworn in by my counsel, you may begin your testimony. Oh.
Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before the committee today and to respond honestly to council member questions?
I do. Thank you. Good morning, Finance Committee Chairperson Ferreras Copeland, Higher Education Committee Chairperson Barron, and committee members. I am Vita Rabinowitz, Executive Vice Chancellor and University Provost of the City University of New York. I am, as you have suggested, representing James B. Milliken, Chancellor of CUNY, who is not able to be with us today. I will be reading testimony that Chancellor Milliken prepared and had hoped to deliver personally. Thank you for this opportunity to meet with you today, and thank you for your long history of support of CUNY and its talented, ambitious students. I am joined today by a number of colleagues who may help us in answering your questions. Seated at the table with me are Matthew Sapienza, Senior Vice Chancellor for Budget and Finance, and Judy Bergtram, Vice Chancellor for Facilities Planning and Construction. We have conveyed to the Council on other occasions, including in the recent past, the thinking behind our new vision for CUNY's future, our new strategic framework. And we want to begin today by thanking you for the investments you make in our university. I would also like now to take a few minutes to briefly discuss how we are rapidly implementing that vision and the great payoff that our students, our city and state will be receiving. True to the mission of CUNY, which turns 170 years old this month, our initiatives, and especially your support, are helping us expand access to the benefits of a college diploma, increase the quality and focus of the education we provide, build wider bridges directly into the most promising careers for our graduates, and improve affordability. Most of all, we are adding significantly to the single most important asset we provide, opportunity, to the most diverse and talented student body in the country. One reason for our optimism is an increase in CUNY applications this spring for fall 2017. We will not have final enrollment numbers for some time, but the jump in applications overall and the large increases at some college demonstrate the importance of the educational opportunities CUNY offers. We credit both the city's investment in free application waivers and the excitement over the state's new Excelsior Scholarship for some of this increase. And I do hope you take as much satisfaction in that progress as we do. You are, of course, all aware of the vote of confidence in higher education that we experienced this spring with the enactment of Governor Cuomo's Excelsior, a free tuition program that we understand will be a topic of conversation today. This program will create more access and opportunity for more students and contribute to New York's prosperity well into the future. There is great interest in the program among potential students at CUNY and their families, and we are now implementing the program across the university. Yet another reason for our optimism is the number of superb candidates who have expressed deep interest in leadership positions at CUNY at this time. We are delighted that our Board of Trustees approved Chancellor Milliken's recommendations last week to appoint Carol Mason as the new president of John Jay College of Criminal Justice. Ms. Mason, who held senior positions in President Obama's Justice Department, and prior to that was a national leader at a major law firm, brings a wealth of experience and talent to this outstanding college. She brings also extraordinary stature, a proven commitment to equality and justice, and best of all, genuine affection and respect for the college's students and mission. She found an apartment near John Jay in 2 days, so we think we can say with confidence that this match was meant to be. In terms of our strategic framework, we are making a significant advance in access by implementing this spring an important series of reforms in our remediation programs. And we are requesting, Council, your support and advocacy for this very important initiative. About 82% of incoming community college students, 57% of all CUNY students are assessed as needing remediation when they come to CUNY. With careful evidence-based assessments of other colleges' programs and outcomes, we have already begun a comprehensive approach to revising our remedial efforts. And as they are phased in, we expect major increases in the number of qualified students who will move more quickly into credit-bearing college courses. Of course, our academic standards will not change at all, and the students will still have to satisfy the very same credit-bearing course and degree requirements, guaranteeing unwavering quality. But it is clear that more students will move more swiftly toward degree completion. This is particularly true of students from underrepresented groups who now make up a large proportion of the students placed into remediation. In another important initiative that will expand access and accelerate degree progress for our students, we are moving forward on our plans for a significant expansion in our offerings of online degree programs. We have issued a request for proposals for a technology partner for our programs and have already received great interest. The partner we choose will provide the expertise, technology platform, and branding expertise so that interested CUNY faculty will be able to create online courses of consistent quality and designed for success in this medium. We are confident that there will be interest in our online programs. Indeed, there already is, and particularly among adult students, a key constituency for CUNY as we expand access efforts. In addition, we have moved forward on our robust administrative excellence program. This is a comprehensive redesign of administrative operations that will, as we phase this in, improve the services we provide to CUNY colleges, remove unnecessary administrative layers and frictions, and not least, save tens of millions of dollars a year, freeing up funds that can be invested in the classroom and on our highest educational priorities. The city's investment in our senior colleges is another area in which your support would assist in implementing our new vision and expanding access and program quality. Of course, continued support for the City Council Merit Scholarship Program is an investment that changes lives and delivers substantial returns for our city. We are extremely grateful to the Council, particularly the Higher Education and Finance Committees, for their continued support of the Council Merit Scholarship Initiative. The City Council has been a stalwart partner to CUNY, especially to our community colleges, but also to our comprehensive and senior colleges, by providing support for critical maintenance work and major new buildings. In recent years, your support has been instrumental in helping CUNY to complete North Hall's new quad at Bronx Community College, a major expansion of Medgar Evers Library, creation of a new dining facility at Queensborough Community College, and the creation of the Fierstein Graduate School of Cinema at Brooklyn College, all projects that added much-needed space and enriched those campuses with modern, well-designed facilities that honor and inspire our students. Also, with your support, we have been able to start design on the new Allied Health and Sciences buildings for Ostos Community College. This major facility will provide modern classrooms and science labs for the college's allied health programs, which provide essential workforce development. In addition, it will house a dental clinic that will provide students with practical experience at the same time that it furnishes the community with expanded services. In recent years, the Council has provided over $250 million to CUNY and funded over 100 projects, in particular at community colleges where the need is greatest. Because of your incredibly generous support of critical maintenance funding, CUNY has been able to address some of the most challenging critical maintenance issues at the campuses. As you know from our previous discussions, achieving a state of good repair within the system is an utmost priority for us. All of this work is essential to realizing the vision in our strategic framework and expanding all the ways that CUNY advances the causes of spreading benefits of opportunities to all New Yorkers. Other projects that support that vision, including the progress we are making on one of our largest single critical maintenance projects, and that is the construction of the new facade of LaGuardia Community College's Center 3 building. This enormous building is 100 years old, and its facade must be replaced if the building is to be preserved. I am happy to report that we expect to complete construction of this $125 million project by the beginning of next year. And I believe you will all take pride in the realization of what will be a community treasure. Other critical maintenance projects that have benefited from council funding are the ongoing campus-wide utility upgrades at Bronx Community College, a complete replacement of the electrical system at Queensborough Community College so that the college will no longer experience power outages, and the phased renovation of Ostos Community College's 500 Grand Concourse building. Council members, let me conclude by pointing out that we are moving into a commencement season that will put on display just what your investments deliver. Our students and our faculty have won an extraordinary number of major distinctions this year in fields ranging from poetry to biology. These distinctions are a tribute to the drive, creativity, and talent of our students. But just as important, Chancellor Milliken wants to stress, and I join with him, that we take enormous pride in the many outstanding students who graduate and then go on in large numbers to teach our children in the city schools, who keep us safe as law enforcement officials and maintain the health of our communities, as the nurses and the technicians who are the heart and soul of the most effective healthcare system in the nation. These graduates are the backbone of our city, a backbone that only gets stronger with your support. So thank you for all you do for CUNY and New York City and for your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony this morning. I have a few questions, and then I'm going to have my colleagues ask some questions, and we'll come back in a second round. So just want to prepare you. Members will have 5 minutes in the first round, and if there's additional questions, you'll come back on a third.
Very good. Thank you.
But, you know, we love CUNY, so I don't think you'll have a second round. But
Thank you.
just wanted to start off with one of, the initiatives that we pride ourselves to partner with you on, and that's the CUNY Citizenship Now program. The council's initiative with CUNY that we called on the administration to be baselined in the preliminary budget response was Citizenship Now. In the current political climate, now more than ever, the city's residents need access to free immigration services.
Yes, they do.
As sanctuary city, New York has a responsibility to set an example of why we are already great. In fiscal 2017, the council funded Citizenship Now at $2 million. It's something that I personally believe in. A lot of my colleagues believe in. It's something that, is changing lives every day in our district offices. How else is Citizenship Now funded?
I will, because this is a funding question, Councilwoman, I will pass this to Senior Vice Chancellor Sapienza.
Thank you and good morning.
Of course.
We are certainly looking for, Chair Ferreras-Copeland, for restoration of the $2 million. We certainly echo everything that you say about Citizenship Now. It's one of the best programs that we've developed over the last decade at the university. And as you mentioned, certainly with all of the issues surrounding immigration right now, it's becoming even more important. So we certainly are looking for that support to continue. And I just want to point out our director of our Citizenship Now program, I want to give him all the credit, Dr. Alan Wernick, who's in the front row there, who's been running the program since its inception, and him and his team do a terrific job.
We are in total agreement. He has been doing a great job and been a great partner, and just been someone, I remember when this was pitched, right, as a concept, and where we thought would benefit most. It wasn't in every council district. It was where we felt at the time was most needed, not having the foresight that we'd be where we are today, that it was going to be needed across our city and definitely across our country. However, many of us have waiting lists in our office. I think I have a month and a half, almost 2 months wait. So also partnering with those weekend workshops helps a great deal because we're able to get a group of people off the waiting list. To what extent has Citizenship Now seen an increase in the number of requests for services since November's election? Not just in the council district office, but across all the services, because, this is one service. It's the title says it, but in reality, you do so much more than just the N400 application. So we know the uptick, but if we could just get it on the record on what
Sure.
we've seen after Election Day.
All right, so, Chair, I'm going to ask with your permission and Chair Barron's permission if we can make our first call to the bullpen and have Alan Wernick come up and
All right.
respond to that. Thank you.
Well, good thing you were sitting in the first row, Alan.
Yes.
I was recommending my students to try and sit in the first row the teacher recognizes.
There you go. Can you turn on your mic?
Yes. My name is Alan Wernick. I'm Director of CUNY Citizenship now. I'm also a professor at Baruch College, City University of New York. You know, we've, since the election, we have seen a really substantial and marked increase in the need for services, both at the City Council offices and in our, pardon me, and in our 6 offices located throughout the city. Rosie Eugenio, who coordinates our attorney services at the City Council offices, reports that waiting times have gone from 2 to 4 weeks to 6 weeks on average. And Councilmember Ferreras, you know, yours is your office has the longest wait, which is about 4 months. We have also received additional, as a result of inquiries, we've received several council members requesting additional days of service, which we're more than happy to provide if there's appropriate funding. And at least 5 locations, we're substantially over capacity. 2/3 of the sites require additional resources if we were actually to meet the increased demand. Our goal is that people shouldn't have to wait longer than 2 weeks, if possible, for an appointment. And there are additional council members who have asked for services. What we do is when the funding comes through from the City Council, we send a letter to all 51 council members offering them services. Some of them say, no, I don't need the services at my office. But what's happened is since the election, other council members who are not currently served, who we did not budget to serve, are now asking for days. And we're doing the best we can to accommodate them, but without increased funding, we're going to have to take from the existing offices where we have 2 days, let's say, and make those 1 day, and then take the 1 day to the other offices. We feel that we have the, and the other thing I would say is that one of the things that's happened is that people who had put off becoming U.S. citizens, for instance, because they had a criminal record, it was too much trouble to get their record, maybe they thought they didn't really qualify, are now coming to see us. Many of these people, in fact, do qualify for citizenship, but their cases take longer. So that's adding to the waiting list, right? Because where before we may be able to help somebody in 45 minutes, perhaps it's going to take 2 hours or several visits. Very often people do not have clear information about their immigration history or their criminal history. On their immigration history, we file what's called the Federal Freedom of Information Act request. It takes 6 to 9 months, and we bring the person back in, review their immigration record. And so, our policy is that if a person qualifies for citizenship, they do not get turned away. There's no such thing. There are cases that take more time, but there are no cases that we consider too difficult or too complex for us to take on. That is our mission. So if it means that a person's case takes longer, that's just the way it is, and we will do the best we can to accommodate them. And the final thing I would say is that we know, based on the space availability, we know there are council members where we could set up basically an office. In other words, we could be there 5 days a week with the same attorney, the same paralegal, with the same administrative assistant. And that is, of course, the best way to provide services, to have the same people there, to have them there all week. Of course, again, that requires additional funding. But we have the capacity to provide that service because of Rosie's work. I call her Rosie because I know you know her. I'm sorry. Attorney Eugenio's work. And because of the structure that we have built in at Citizenship Now. And if I can just say this one last point, one of the things we're doing in response to this need, and of course the need is not just for citizenship, we have needs for people who are applying for permanent residence, other kinds of visas, and our view is the best protection against deportation is to advance your status right within the immigration system. So we are doing everything we can to increase efficiencies. And 2 things I would just mention real quickly, if you give me the moment. One is that we're trying to centralize our appointment system. So there are people willing to go from the Bronx to Brooklyn if it means that they can get their appointment system sooner. So we've put a lot of resources and time into that. And the other thing is, and this we've had a soft launch, so not a lot of people know about it, but One of the things that's happened, first of all, we've had an increased interest from our volunteers. More people want to help us. And when we do a announce of citizenship training, it fills up in one day, the number of seats. But the other thing is we've been approached by a number of private corporate immigration law, firms that do not do immigration work that want to help immigrants. So we sort of have a soft launch. We have a project where we are working with now two fairly large firms that have made major commitment. We've started to send them cases that require representation beyond the capacity of citizenship now. But again, if we had additional funding, we would like to expand that because we see the interest is out there. Are there any questions I can answer for you?
So I would just recommend that we follow up on what funding would be the ideal case, right? Because I think my particular office is one that would probably require a whole setup. But also if you can share, and you don't have to do it right now, unfortunately, because of the rhetoric that our president got elected to, there are those that believe that these services are for Latinos, or that, and I believe that a lot of them probably are benefiting, right? But I think that Citizenship Now also can prove that this service is for anyone and for everyone, and that anyone and everyone is benefiting from citizenship and immigration support through this CUNY program that is credible and consistent in our office. So,
you bet, and we will provide you that data. But just real quickly, I can tell you that the 5 countries which received the largest amount of services, number 1 is Dominican Republic, second is Jamaica, Haiti, China, and Guyana. So those are the 5 countries.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? Dominican
Sure,
Republic?
I'm sorry, I rushed it. I apologize. But we will provide you a document. The Dominican Republic is number 1 as country of origin, Jamaica, Haiti, China, and Guyana. After that is Trinidad and Tobago, Ecuador, Mexico. But we will provide you data. That was based on the last fiscal year.
Okay, perfect. So we would love to see that. Thank you very much. I have 2 more questions, and then I want to open up to the chair. I'm actually going to come back in a second round. So the research institutes is something that we also asked to have baselined. The council has been funding some of the research institutes at CUNY for over a decade, supporting as much as 1/3 of their total operating budgets. We asked the administration to baseline support for these 3 programs, as well as funding for the Mexican Institute at the Jaime Lucero Mexican Studies Institute at Lehman College and the Haitian Studies Institute at Brooklyn College, both institutes that we very strongly believe and want to support. So how do other CUNY research institutes get their funding, and do any of the research institutes get support from the administration?
Do you want to start with that? Sure. Yeah, okay. And then
Yeah, I'll start, and then I'll turn it over to Executive Vice Chancellor Rubin. Bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thank you, Chair Ferris, for bringing up the institutes and the funding for them. Historically, the council has provided funding for the Center for Puerto Rican Studies at Hunter College and the Dominican Studies Institute at City College. In the current fiscal year, both of those centers were funded at $970,000 each. And so we're looking for restoration of those funds in the fiscal 18 budget, as that's negotiated with the mayor. And we're very grateful that you also mentioned the Mexican Studies Institute as well, because we're very excited about that. The Haitian Studies Institute, which is a fairly new institute. So we're definitely looking for support for those things. And Peter, was there anything you wanted to add on that?
I only wanted to add that as one who spent her career at Hunter College, I know that the support for the Centro has been tremendous and has made all the difference. Some of the newer institutes, because we are in a different fiscal climate, have not been as strongly supported, and we do believe that institutes should be multiply supported by grant support, by the home college, by the central office, that no one entity should bear the entire cost. But we do want to make sure that the Mexican and the Haitian institutes get off to great starts. And
we absolutely agree. We just want to better understand the contribution that you've given to the other institutes, these 2 institutes, so that they can be on solid ground, also get the support. But ideally, our vision is that all the institutes would be baseline so that they can move forward and plan as appropriately, so that they don't have to continuously come to the council. And, from our perspective, this is a program, we like to create things that prove to work with the hopes that, then the administration takes it on.
That's right.
Not with the hopes that we keep funding
Right.
endlessly, or that our funding is to enhance, right?
Exactly.
So we would like to better understand, and we can follow up. I would want that both the Haitian and the Mexican Institute have as much support as the other institutes that have been there traditionally for longer time.
Yes, Chairperson, we have been doing an inventory of how our institutes are funded, the various sources, as well as leadership, and we would be pleased to provide that when it is finished.
Okay. Fiscal 2018's preliminary budget response called for the administration to also baseline city support for the Murphy's Institute. Also, kind of the same thing. How is the Institute currently being funded, and what is the Murphy Institute's total operating budget? Also a very important institute to our council, wanting them to be baseline just for planning purposes and for strength, so that we don't have to continuously have to weather or even be really exposed to what may happen on a federal level, that then the first ones that we have to look at right-sizing are the things that are on our ledger, because our budgets are much smaller than that of the administration. So if you can walk me through the Murphy Institute, or is that the same?
Sure. No, the Murphy Institute receives funding through the state, from the state-adopted budget, and those funds were, this year's allocation will continue into fiscal 18, so we're pleased about that. The City Council support and the funds that we get from the City of New York are also critically important to the Murphy Institute as well. And there are some grants that the Murphy Institute receives as well. And of course, thanks, John. And tuition revenue from the students is, of course, a major resource for the Murphy Institute. So we can provide you with all of the details behind the Murphy's budget.
Okay.
But again, we agree with you that that's an important institute, and we look forward to continue to support that, and we're grateful for the council's support.
You spoke about the reforms at CUNY's remediation program. What is it, when you say support? We can write you a support letter. I don't think that's what you want. So what are the details of the support that you need from the council for the remediation program?
Oh, thank you for that question. We'll just start by saying I think there is no single thing that CUNY can do that will lead to greater student success or remove the greatest barriers to student success at CUNY writ large, than comprehensive remediation reform. I mentioned in my testimony the percentage of students who are placed into remediation. What I did not say is that at the end of their first year at CUNY, slightly less than 1/2 of the students have completed their remedial work, and most of the students who do not complete their developmental studies do not go on to graduate, not from CUNY, not from anywhere. So our approach needs to be comprehensive, and it is. Council Chair, what we propose is to change how we partner with the DOE to make sure that more students come to CUNY college ready because of our collaboration while students are still in high school. That is assessing proficiency, offering courses, versions of our very effective CUNY Start programs in senior year, so students come to us proficient. But beyond that, we want to change how we place students into remediation. We want to incorporate grades into the algorithm, because the fact is grades are a better predictor of student success than test scores. So we will not abandon test scores, not at all, but we will incorporate grades. For students who score close to the cut point for proficiency, we will no longer say, you're in developmental education, which many students find stigmatizing, disappointing and discouraging. The more we learn about remediation, the more we realize it's not an unquestioned good. Well-intentioned people have believed that for many years, but it is more complicated. So for students who score close to the cut point, we are suggesting boot camps, boosts, other short, non-course-based interventions, and then they retest and go right into, we can only hope, credit-bearing courses. To the extent we also want to better prepare our students for our tests, many students come in to take the CUNY placement test cold. We now know that even short orientations, 3-hour general orientations to test taking, could improve scores. Add another 3 hours and put in some math or English reading, writing content, and you can boost scores even more. Right now, we overplace students into remediation. This is not a problem just at CUNY, it's a nationwide problem. So, place fewer students into remediation in the first place. Once they are assigned to, if they score high, offer them courses, credit-bearing courses with additional supports. It's known as these are co-curricular courses, and we want to train our faculty. So we need to train faculty, provide additional supports, refresh and enliven our curricula and pedagogy more generally. But aside from the co-curricular courses, we would like to align students' math needs in particular and their math curricula with their intended course of study. So no longer will algebra proficiency be a barrier to students who are not interested in STEM careers. And finally, we are changing. Students must move through developmental coursework more quickly. So aside from the additional supports, we are changing the way students exit from remediation. No longer will students need to take a standardized test and pass a course of which the standardized test is 35% of the grade in order to exit. Again, we believe that if we implement these reforms, we will reduce and perhaps even eliminate racial achievement gaps. And you asked what benefits. We are predicting that we will double graduation rates in associate degree programs by 2022. Now, it won't be all due to comprehensive remediation reform. ASAP expansion is going to contribute. I don't want to oversell anything, but we can't reach that goal of doubling graduation rates from about 17 or 18% to over 35% without reform. The percentage of students on track to graduate by the start of their second year will increase by at least 25%. This percentage of students placed into developmental education to begin with, especially math developmental education, will decrease by at least 15%, probably closer to 20%. And so we are imagining greater academic momentum. To achieve these results, we're going to need tutoring, money for tutoring and supplemental instruction, faculty newly trained on developmental pedagogy and curricula, immersion programs, boosts, boot camps, the kinds of things I talked about, retesting opportunities, test preparation so that our students don't walk in cold and disadvantaged the way they do now.
So what's the cost?
$4 million a year.
Okay, we should have started with the 4.
Okay.
$4 million
A year.
a year. Now, did you request this as a new need when you,
Yes.
in this fiscal year?
Yes.
did.
Yes, of the city, a new need.
Yes. Okay. All right, well, you're preaching to the choir. We all believe in getting our young adults that want to go to college, actually taking college courses. But we understand that the partnership with DOE is also vital.
Critical.
I'm going to also have the chair ask her questions. I'll come back at a second round. after our colleagues ask their questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, thank you for coming. I've got lots of questions. In terms of the developmental program that you just described, how does that relate to the CUNY START program, which was topic of a hearing recently?
Exactly. It's CUNY START, as you now know, Chair Barron, is a very special form of developmental education. It bears no credits, and it does not consume financial aid. But CUNY START is not for everyone. And by the way, I wish it were for more students. I want to make it clear. It's wonderfully effective. It requires full-time attendance. It requires that students immerse themselves in study in a way that some of our students simply can't. And it also requires that they put off matriculation, and some students just they don't want to do that for reasons we understand. But CUNY START will remain a critical tool in our toolbox, because for some, for double remedial students, for example, it's wonderfully effective.
Do you have a name for this program that you're talking about, the developmental program that will do some orientation and test prep?
No, we don't,
Okay.
but we should
right.
come up with a catchy name. Yes.
Okay. And then you talked about exiting from CUNY. And you
Yes.
said there's a change. Could you expand on that a little?
Yes. Right now, CUNY is an outlier. CUNY does something that virtually no other system does. In order to exit remediation, students must pass a common developmental final in any of math, reading, or English. And in addition to that, they must pass a course in which that very same common developmental final is worth 35% of the grade. In other community colleges, for example, the SUNY schools, students must pass a course, a developmental course, not the course and also the final separately. And that keeps our students back, Chair Barron. It holds back students who have the skills.
So what is the proposal?
The proposal is now to use the course in which there is still a common final, and that's as much so that we've got a standard that we can point to. This is what we expect students to know. But the final exam will not be worth more than 35% of the course grade.
Okay. All right. Thank you. In terms of the budget that is proposed here, you talk about critical maintenance, and you talk about capital strategies, and you talk about the capital commitments. Mm-hmm. How do the two plans relate? The CUNY capital strategic budget for 2018 to 27 is $389 million, and the capital commitment plan for 2016 through 2021 is $543 million. So I'm trying to get an understanding of how those two amounts relate.
Well, the 500 million is the capital plan for the next 4 years.
Right.
And the strategic is the plan for the next 3 years.
The strategic is the plan for the next
For the next 4 years.
4?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought it was the 10-year capital strategic plan, so it's 4. Okay, I need to correct that information then. And in terms of the money that has been expended for those capital improvements, I know you had plans that you highlighted them. At Lehman, you completed a project for the Science Hall, BMCC, the library, BCC, the library, BMCC, Fitterman, College of Technology, Medgar Evers. How do the campuses get bumped on the list? What's the prioritization of the campuses on the list to make sure that their projects are there? I know you spoke about the phases and having the money for phases to be sure that as each phase is introduced, the money is there.
So we sit down every year with every single campus, the senior colleges and the community colleges, and we developed this book, which is 150 pages, and we go through the priorities. We prioritize the critical maintenance. We prioritize their need for new space. So this is everything that CUNY needs. CUNY's not going to get funded for this. For the capital money that we get from the state, we use a formula for critical maintenance. We've done a critical maintenance study, which we're just about to redo, and what percentage of the total amount that is appropriated, that's how we determine what the schools get. But it's based on a formula, and it's based upon what I'm holding up.
Thank you. In the budget, you've got, $803 million from city tax levy dollars, and you say that 71% of that was for salary and wage increases for 2017 to 18. And we know that PSC had asked for negotiations to take place so that $35 million would be available for faculty, full-time faculty, to have a reduced course load.
That's right.
What happened?
Correct. Thanks, Chair Barron, for raising that issue. We were very grateful last summer to come to an agreement with all of our unionized employees, including the Professional Staff Congress, the PSC, for wage increases. As part of that agreement that we have with the PSC, the university and the union also had a side agreement that said that both sides would work together and form a committee that would look at ways in which the workload could be reduced by 3 hours. So for community college faculty, the workload is right now 27 contact hours. For the senior college faculty, it's 21 contact hours, which are both more than what the national averages are for workload. So we agreed with the union that we would look to find ways that we can do that both operationally and financially. The committee has met and will continue to meet. In our budget request for this in this past fall that we presented to our Board of Trustees, as you mentioned, we did include $35 million that would be used to help fund the workload reduction. We asked the city for this funding as part of our new needs. It was not included in the executive budget. But we're still hopeful that we'll be able to obtain funding to help us get there.
Great. And then you have from state dollars $297 million, and you say it includes per student base aid at community colleges, and you talk about CUNY in the Heights. Could you talk a little about that program, CUNY in the Heights?
Sure. So CUNY in the Heights is another program that was launched in the mid-2000s and has been incredibly successful. We received another $200,000 in the state enacted budget this year for CUNY in the Heights that we were really grateful about. CUNY in the Heights provides both credit-bearing courses and adult continuing ed courses for residents of Washington Heights, and they also serve Inwood. We have folks from North Bronx that come over and take courses there. And we have two partner colleges that administer the CUNY in the Heights program, BMCC and Hostos. BMCC does do the bulk of the credit-bearing courses. And one of the things we're really grateful about and want to do more of is for the residents of Washington Heights, many of them are BMCC students because that is the community college in the borough along with Gutman. But for them to be able to take credit-bearing courses in their local neighborhood rather than have to travel to BMCC is a great benefit to those students that have family and work obligations. And so we want to do more of that, and that's what we're hearing from the community is that they'd like more credit-bearing courses from BMCC. Hostos is more on the side of the adult continuing ed sector, but we certainly would like to make more investments in the CUNY in the Heights program and be able to provide that community with more credit-bearing courses.
Right.
In terms of the Murphy Institute, we had visions of the Murphy Institute, in fact, becoming the Murphy School.
Right.
Can you tell us where we are in that regard?
Okay. Yes, Chair Barron. We have been working closely with the Murphy leadership team, with the Labor Advisory Board that is very important to the school, with its current home, the School of Professional Studies, and with other stakeholders to transition the Murphy Institute to what I believe will be called the CUNY School of Labor Studies and Urban Affairs, which will at once raise its profile and permit it to grow. Chancellor Milliken has stated, and we are on track to deliver on June 26th to our Board of Trustees a resolution that states not only the intention, the approval of the board to move forward with the formation of the CUNY School of Labor Studies and Urban Affairs, but also has some more details about its home college. I cannot at this time, I mean, the announcement of precisely what that will look like will await Chancellor Milliken and Chair Thompson's announcement, but we are on track. It is our goal, and our commitment, frankly, to achieve school status for the Murphy Institute.
You spoke about the need of about 80% of the students coming into community colleges to have a need for remedial work. It's my belief that education should be from the cradle through what we now call graduate work, postgraduate work. If we're going to do that, and if we're going to make sure that students progress appropriately along the continuum of learning and not have a need when they get to community college or senior college for remedial work, what are we going to do to better prepare teachers that the DOE is hiring, many of whom are New York City residents? So it seems that it's our own population that we have, basically, in the majority. So how are we working specifically with the DOE and with teacher preparation universities to make sure we get the teachers that we need?
You raise a great question. My understanding is that 30% of all new teachers hired by the DOE every year are CUNY education graduates. So it's just another way in which our relationship is like this. We do need to strengthen and diversify the teaching workforce of New York City. CUNY has a special obligation to do that and a commitment. In terms of strengthening teacher quality, Chair Barron, one of the ways we are moving swiftly, and in fact I'm meeting next week with the Deputy Chancellor of the DOE to discuss teacher education, is the expansion of clinically rich residencies. In other words, our teachers need more experience. Our teaching students need more experience in classrooms, more supervision. And we are going to grow our residency programs. So that is one important major new direction. Another is we have been advised that we will need to refresh curricula and pedagogy. Some of what I said about developmental education is true throughout the curriculum more generally. That is that there's new research suggesting how people learn, what works, and we've got to get there. Okay. And we're doing it in teacher education. We've got at least 2 new relationships, residency relationships. So that's something we're pursuing.
Who are those relationships with?
Well, we want to work with the UFT, New Visions, among other partners, but certainly those 2 partners.
Okay. We're talking about faculty, and CUNY has, as you know, an abysmal record, a terrible record in terms of recruiting faculty of color. So what's being done? That's a question that I always want to ask. And how much money do we see, can we identify in the budget that actually goes after recruitment?
In fact, there is a budget answer, and you ask a larger question, but let's start with that.
In terms of the budget, in fiscal 17's budget, there was a program that was funded by the city as part of the Young Men's Initiative. It was $300,000. It was a partnership between CUNY and the DOE, which aimed to, as you mentioned, Chair Barron, improve the diversity. And specifically, this $300,000 was aimed towards trying to add more male teachers of color into our public schools. So the goal was to try to increase the city public school teaching workforce by 1,000 male teachers of color by 2018.
By 2018?
By 2018, right. So we have $300,000 that was funded in the budget for that.
Do you have a number as to how successful we've been? Can you tell us?
Not yet, but we will, we'll follow up with you on that. We also have a new diversity plan that we worked on with our Board of Trustees. That, is a big focus for us going forward. Our Vice Chancellor Ginger Waters has been working on that, is here, if you want to hear more about that. But it certainly is a focus that, and one of our top priorities, not only of the administration, but for our Board of Trustees as well.
That's right.
Okay, we really have to address that because there's only been, according to your data, a 1% increase in black faculty over the last 20 years. So that's unacceptable. We have to really move the needle.
It is, Chair Barron, if I may just add, Chancellor Milliken just charged a new task force with of CUNY presidents, also Vice Chancellor Waters and me, to devise a comprehensive plan for diversifying our faculty. We are trying to identify resources within our existing budget, and we're also working very hard and have had more success of late. It's a minor, it's nothing that I can share in terms of major percentages in retaining faculty of color, because that's another issue. We have lost more faculty of color than we lose majority faculty, and we're on that as well. But Vice Chancellor Waters is here. Is there any? Ginger, do you want to?
If you have,
may I
welcome,
turn to
if you have any
That's-
comments.
Okay.
Thank you and good morning. So I want to just pick up on what Executive Vice Chancellor Rabinowitz just said. One of the things that we've learned in looking at the data is that we do lose faculty of color at a much greater rate for reasons of resignations and for non-reappointments. And so one of the programs that we are putting in place is to provide support for faculty as they go through the process on campus for tenure and promotion, giving them critical responses to their writing and helping them navigate the system. We bring in publishers who tell them what they're looking for as they prepare their dossiers for consideration. So that's one of the programs that we have in place. Another, beginning on May 13th, we're actually going to be training faculty. We have invited provosts, chairs, other faculty, training them in unconscious bias, because we believe that when people are actually presented with CVs, et cetera, that there are things that work their way into the process that perhaps work against a faculty of color. And so we have started a program to train. We have a capacity for 80 people coming up in this May. To begin that process. And then there will be people on the campuses who can actually work with search committees as they go through the process of evaluating resumes, et cetera, that come to their attention. So we are also, we have gotten $540,000 from the Mellon Foundation to also provide support at the schools that have Mellon grants. We have a Mellon Faculty Fellowship Program that also provides support to faculty who are at those schools and are working in areas that are specifically for minority faculty. So we have that program in place as well. But in terms of recruitment, we're also going to be looking at tracking better how we recruit faculty, where they come from, what kind of partnerships we need to develop with Hispanic serving institutions and HBCUs, and see if there's a way to tap into the programs that produce doctorates from those institutions. So we have we're working on a number of different tracks, and we've had tremendous support from our board to proceed in this manner, so I'm very excited about that.
I thank you for that. I'm glad to know that there are so many tactics that you're looking to employ. I think it's important. I'm especially pleased to know that you're looking at what we call the unconscious bias, because I've heard from Black faculty about the systemic racist obstacles that they have in their departments that prevent them from moving up the tenure track, moving up. And I think that as we address that, as we face it, as we acknowledge that it exists, then we'll be better able to retain those persons who do come and elevate them through as they stay with us with CUNY. Because we certainly know that students are influenced by identifying with the instructors that they have in their classes and by the personnel that they see around them, who help to inspire them to be able to say, I can move forward as well.
Absolutely.
As well.
We're in total agreement there.
Okay. So now I'm going to get to the question that I raised in my opening remarks, the Excelsior scholarships. You say you've had an increase in enrollment.
Applications.
Applications,
Yes,
right.
Yes.
How do you anticipate increased numbers being accepted? How are you prepared to accommodate these new additional students? Where will they be placed? We already have faculty that talks about the increased class sizes that they're teaching. We already know that they're teaching 27 hours for full time.
Yes.
Where are we going to put the students that are coming? And how is faculty that's already stretched beyond what we find in other universities around the country expected to deal with this increased numbers?
Okay. Chair Barron, maybe first we should look at what impact we're expecting in terms of numbers.
Yes.
And then to your question, what are we going to do about it? And several of us can answer that. Matt, do you want to start with numbers?
Sure, thank you. So we're very excited about the Excelsior scholarships, and we're working very hard to make sure we get information out to not only our current students, but any of our new students that are coming in for the fall, and any prospective students that we may have. So if I can take a minute, I just want to unpack a little bit the data so that we all have better context over the numbers and what some of the projections are. So right now at the university, we have about 160,000 undergraduate full-time students, and those would be the students that would be where Excelsior recipients would come from, because part-time students, graduate students, are not targeted under Excelsior. So we have 160,000 full-time undergraduate students at our senior colleges and community colleges. The average at CUNY of the number of students who attend tuition-free currently because of the TAP program in New York State and Pell, the federal Pell program, is about 57%. So about 90,000 of those 160,000 students are already attending tuition-free, which would leave 70,000 that pay something. So of that 70,000 that pay something, some of those are non-resident students. They don't live in New York State, and so they wouldn't be eligible for Excelsior. Some of them are above the income level, which for next year is $100,000, so they wouldn't be eligible. And some aren't eligible due to academic reasons in terms of where they aren't in terms of their path to graduation. So when you consider all those factors, and the main fact that 57% of our students are currently attending tuition-free, it makes the population much smaller. And so I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that, and that there's already more than half of our students that are attending tuition-free. So we're projecting of our current students, about 4,000 will be eligible for Excelsior moving forward.
Just let me interject. I don't usually interrupt. I thought this was only applicable to students who are just now graduating, not those who are presently in attendance.
No, it's for students who are currently in attendance, it begins for the fall 2017 semester. So any students that are at CUNY, whether they're continuing students or whether they're new students that are coming in for the first time, would be eligible if they meet the income and academic criteria.
I'll have to check that again because that wasn't what I had seen. Maybe it was an earlier version that I had seen.
Right. So we think about 4,000 of our continuing students would be eligible. And again, a lot depends on what their income levels were for the past year, how many credits they've taken. So, that number is obviously an estimate. But we're hopeful from our new freshmen coming in. On average, we usually have about between 35 and 40,000 new freshmen that come into the university every year. So again, just unpacking the numbers and saying, well, if at least 57% of those students, and probably more, will not have to pay any tuition because it's TAP and Pell. Some of those will be non-residents, and again, when you start layering off the students that wouldn't be, we expect, we're hopeful that about 6,000 of our new freshmen will be eligible for Excelsior on top of the 4,000 continuing students.
I guess my question then is, do you see an increase in enrollment numbers based on students who might have gone away to school or to private school who will now be applying to CUNY because they make $100,000 and they can come tuition free?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
we do.
And what
we do.
number are you projecting that to be?
I don't have an overall projection in that number, but we certainly expect that will occur, that students who maybe were thinking of going elsewhere, whether, like you say, going to an institution where they can live outside of New York City or go to a private institution will now consider CUNY. We certainly expect that to be the result.
Well,
and
I don't want to belabor the point. I want to thank you because I think it's just Excelsior is a very rushed program. It wasn't, in my opinion, well thought out. It didn't have the input of a larger population of people who are interested and have demonstrated a history of being involved in higher education. And I think that the Excelsior Scholarship Program is going to bring in a population that is white, that is middle class, and that will displace students who are Black, Latino, and low income. And I wonder how CUNY will begin to make their selection of students who are applying if they have a limited number and if they want to increase their standing and their stature, and they know that there are perhaps students coming who don't need the remedial work, who don't need the developmental work, and what will be the criteria? How will colleges, how will the CUNY campuses select from the population of students who are coming to them?
Yeah, Chair Barron,
And
I
that
totally,
we don't displace students
Yeah.
who now who are Black and Latino,
No.
who see CUNY as that road to get.
totally hear your concerns. And, what I'll say in response to that is, at CUNY, we take very seriously, one of our main missions, which is access, which has been really the mission of CUNY for 170 years since CUNY was first started. Since the beginning of the decade, I think we've added 60,000 students, 60,000 students since the beginning of the beginning of the century in 2000. And even over the last 5 years, we've added 13,000 students. So what I would say to that concern and to everyone is, this is what we do here at CUNY. We are open to everyone, and anyone that wants to come to CUNY, we will find a seat for you somewhere in our 24 campuses, because that's what we do, and that's what we'll continue to do.
I couldn't agree more, and Chair Barron, I want to add, so what are we doing for what we do think will be some expanded capacity? We're going to offer more summer and winter courses so that students can be eligible for the scholarship, that our existing students, our transfer students, can be eligible for the scholarship if they're within striking distance. We're going to look at opportunities on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, online courses. We are going to, we're going to work hard to create a culture of 15, encourage students to make more academic momentum. And Matt is talking about our commitment. We're not going to be turning students away. We're going to be expanding capacity, and it will be challenging. It's also true that we're graduating more students than we did before. Last year, for the first time, at least in modern history and probably in CUNY history, we graduated more than 50,000 students. We've got our remediation program hopes to accelerate movement through classes. So putting it all together, we want as many of our existing and transfer students to profit from this. We are not going to be turning away students that we are committed to serve. And
Thank you,
I appreciate
Madam
it.
Chair. Thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you, Chair, and again, we can do a second, whoops. Okay, we can, that's why you shouldn't be eating or drinking in chambers. We have a second round, so if you have additional questions, as our colleagues asked theirs. And we will be calling on, I just wanted to say that we are joined by Minority Leader Matteo, Councilmember Gibson and Williams. One question, and then we will hear from Councilmember Vaca, followed by Councilmember Rodriguez. We have had a lot of discussion about supporting families and young students, and, not all students are young at CUNY. You have the advantage of serving everyone from different stages of their career and their path. But one of the realities are childcare and the challenges that we have with childcare. I'm the mother of a 3-year-old. There's nothing more startling than not knowing where your child is going to be, or if your caregiver is sick, which happens. But also, if you need to stay late to take one of your remedial support classes, you don't have the luxury of necessarily leaving your child where it might be further away from your school than you originally intended. So what are the plans or opportunities for childcare support for mothers and fathers, but in most cases it's young mothers that are trying to get an education to advance their families, but also the number one priority is that your child is safe. So can you
Sure.
speak to these challenges?
Sure, no, and I appreciate you raising that issue, because we totally agree that that is one of the most critical functions that we can serve, is our students who are parents and have childcare needs. We want to make sure that they're able to continue their studies, take a full course load, as Vice Chancellor Rabinowitz said. We have 16 childcare centers, I think, currently, 16 childcare centers at our campuses. We were very grateful in the state enacted budget that $900,000 was restored to the childcare center budget to keep them at least flat for this year. But we are looking for investments in the childcare centers for next year. There was a hearing on this recently amongst the at the City Council. And so we are requesting additional support for the childcare
Was that any
centers as well.
part of your new needs requests?
I think it was. Yeah, there is a proposal, and we'll get it to you. But I believe it was for several $400,000 in additional support for our childcare centers.
400,000 would support the existing 16 or add additional?
It would support the existing 16 and give us greater capacity to serve more students.
And pardon, I know that you might have talked about this at your prior hearing. I wasn't joint, so if you can, is this an absolutely free program, or do students have to pay for the child care program? Is it affordable?
Every child care center is run differently, but for the most part, there is a fee that students have to pay. And one thing I want to point out about child care centers that a lot of folks don't realize is it's not just, daycare or babysitting. There are academic programs that are going on for the children of the students at our child care center. So there is an academic component to this as well. So they are very critical, and we certainly want to continue to invest in those.
So the chair and I would like to follow up with the chair, because especially as we're talking about 3K and
Yes.
4K, we tend to focus on the school districts. But this is an entity unto its own that could probably take advantage as we roll out these programs to actually make it not only affordable, but free for some families, so that we can really provide the support that mothers and families need. So
That
we
would be
should
terrific.
probably follow up with that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Vaca, followed by Councilmember Rodriguez, followed by Councilmember Williams.
Thank you. By this time, so many of my questions have been answered. Let me take exception for a second. I support the Excelsior program. I think it's great. I think it's a step in the right direction. Maybe in a year or two, we have to look at it, assess, and tweak. That always happens in legislative proposals.
Sure.
But the reality is, we are the first state in the nation that offers this program, and there are many students who will be taking advantage of it. Students of all colors and all backgrounds will be taking advantage of this program. And if this encourages more students to attend CUNY, I want more students to attend CUNY. Now, does that mean we have challenges in terms of space, in terms of capital infrastructure issues, in terms of faculty? Yes. But then we have to address the issues and we have to work on them. And we in the council are here to help CUNY. We believe in the mission of CUNY, obviously. And I'm sure the state would be there when you go to the state and say to them, we need help. But to argue about whether this program helps any particular group, I think this program helps all groups in this city. And certainly, that's where I'm at. I'm at the point where I know that we have students who cannot afford college, and that issue should not be a criteria that blocks a student from attending college. So we support you in your challenge, and I want to tell you that there are members here willing to do that constructively and across the board for all. You did mention remediation, and I wanted to ask you, I'm encouraged by your plans. I see that we're on a path, but is there a price tag you've attached to what you want to do? Is the money there? Is there a price tag you've attached that you would advocate? We in the council will be entering budget negotiating time, and I think it's a reasonable question to ask because we want to know.
It is a very reasonable question to ask, Council Member. So our new needs ask was exactly $4,110,000, and that's inclusive. And that includes some of the biggest ticket items are, frankly, tutoring, supplemental instruction. This is money that goes mostly to our students, direct student support. So there is that price tag. And we are hoping that over time, the price tag would diminish because, again, we hope and expect to be placing fewer students into remediation in the first place. That's our goal, using lots of different levers to do that. But for the next few years, it will be about, if we're going to do this the way we want to do it, $4 million. Of course, CUNY is making its own investments. But we will need additional support.
I'm sorry. Have you articulated that number or that request to the administration?
Yes, we have.
Yes.
Because this would be a city request because the remediation request involves the community colleges specifically.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It is to the city only.
Okay. I thank you, and I want you to give the chancellor my best. And I hope he's doing well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vaca. Councilmember Rodriguez, followed by Councilmember Williams, followed by Councilmember Gibson, and we've been joined by Councilmembers Cabrera and Van Bramer.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, the best for the Chancellor. I hope that he will get a good recuperation. First, I would like to encourage CUNY to increase the support to now the school of Murphy Institute. And as you know, yes, with the name of the institute of the school, dedicated to the former chancellor who committed himself to bring diversity in the leadership at CUNY. It is important to support what was the institute, now a school at CUNY, the only school that we have in the institution that is dedicated to train the laborers and the future leaders in our city. So that's my first suggestion, recommendation. I hope to see support, more support from the central office to the Murphy School. Then I have a question related to, first, how do we anticipate that the free tuition, which I believe that even though we can have some details and concern on how it will be applied, but I think it was a good thing that the governor did to us. How do we anticipate that the free tuition will increase the student population? And is CUNY ready to work with the PSC so that the ratio of a student per professor is balanced so that the student can get a quality education that the institution is committed to provide today?
Yes, and thank you, Councilman Rodriguez, for raising that. We have certainly have had discussions. We had a meeting with the PSC about a week or so ago, and this was one of the items that we talked about, was the Excelsior Scholarship and how we can best serve students. As we mentioned earlier, we certainly are expecting that more students are going to come to CUNY, and I agree with what Councilmember Vaca said, that we welcome that. We want more students to come to CUNY. But as has been raised earlier by Chair Barron and other members of this committee, we know that there are challenges, and there's space challenges, and there's full-time faculty challenges, but we're ready to meet those, and we're planning to put in place some of the levers that Vice Chancellor Rabinowitz talked about in terms of weekend courses and summer and winter and online capabilities for our students. So we're excited about it, and we look forward to having more students coming to CUNY, and just as importantly, putting students on track to graduate in a more timely way by taking 30 credits a year. Right now, our new freshman applications were up 5% over last year. So again, that doesn't mean that that's going to yield a 5% increase in enrollment, but new freshman applications are up 5%, which again, we're very excited about. And as was mentioned in the testimony that was read by Vice Chancellor Rabinowitz, we think that some of that is due to Excelsior, some of that is due to the fee waivers that was funded in the city budget, and some of that is due to additional confidence that people have in our university and their willingness to want to study with us.
Great. I just hope that, we at the state level, the city level, do our part. We should expect for you to do the best we can as a leaders of the most important institution, the one that has been opening the door for many of us for generation, and the same thing for the future. But what I hope is not a question for you, but for the state and for us here to continue putting more resources on capital so that we can upgrade the infrastructure and what we have right now, and to build, the new permanent community college or any other community college or any the new higher education that we would need. One concern that I have, as you know, is that the reduction of Black and Latino students in senior colleges. And that's I can say for me, this is like an epidemic that we also facing in the city. Like when I was at City College in the 80s, you walk in the cafeteria, you could see the diversity. Today you go back to City College, you can go to Hunter College, and you can go to Brooklyn College, and it's not the same presence of the diversity of what New York City is today. And it's not just on CUNY, because when you receive a student, most of them are community college, where 80% of them they need remedial courses, then we are dealing with the big challenges. So what is the plan? that we have. We have ASAP, we have college
Right,
now.
right.
How can we increase
right.
the percentage, so in this case, Black and Latinos
Right.
that have been going down big time compared to the 80s and what we have today at the senior colleges?
Right. I'm going to start to answer that incredibly complex and sensitive issue, Councilman Rodriguez, but it's an important question. One of the planks of our new strategic framework is explicitly to diversify some of the most elite institutions within CUNY. I'll mention two, and one is the CUNY Graduate Center. We want to produce more students who will be the professoriate of tomorrow. We need to do a number of things to do that, but we want to diversify the professoriate and frankly grow some of our own professors for the future. So the Graduate Center has hired a special dedicated full-time person to focus on diversity. There are target of opportunity fellowships in which students are recruited and their stipends are supplemented. So the Graduate Center is doing a number of things to diversify the doctoral student body. The Macaulay Honors College is one of our CUNY's most elite units. What the Macaulay College is doing this year is it is piloting right now a program, the first transfer program to Macaulay from Bronx Community College. If this pilot is successful, and we think it will be because it was very well thought out, in other words, we want our students to succeed, then we could expand a transfer program to our highest unit and diversify that unit. But all the colleges are, our senior colleges are working to diversify their student bodies. It's very much part of our plan moving forward. I'm going to ask Vice Chancellor Waters if I know it's faculty and leadership that you deal with mainly, Ginger, but in terms of diversity of student bodies, do we have any further indication of our progress?
I think what you spoke about with the graduate school is the most appropriate for my purposes,
Okay.
because it's really feeding the faculty,
Yes.
the faculty ranks. But I understand your concern about the students
Yes.
being put into the elite senior colleges, and I think part of our work, even with the unconscious bias training, we're trying to insert a cultural shift. And I think that the cultural shift throughout the university will indeed impact the representation at the senior colleges with the student population. So I think this is a multifaceted approach that we are moving down, and I think it will really address your concerns.
Right. I just want to add one thing, and that is one thing we need to do at CUNY, it's also in the plan, is improve transfer and articulation from community colleges to senior colleges. We are one university. We are exceptional. We were built to be well articulated and interconnected, and we need to behave more like that, Councilman. So we are because at Baruch, at Hunter, at Queens, at Brooklyn, at City, the transfer population is larger in many cases than the full-time, first-time freshmen. We have a chance by easing transfer, by removing frictions and barriers, of getting more community college students who at CUNY seek to go to community colleges. We need to be more welcoming to students at community colleges who are much more likely to be students of color.
Thank you, but that trend is not changing. Since I got here in 2009, at senior colleges, we cannot say, no one can bring the number saying in 10 years ago, the number was in this percentage, especially in the Black and Latino senior colleges. And today, because of everything that we have done, that number has changed for the good. It's not going that direction. So we need to really work in that pilot project, because what was close to 80% Black and Latino in the 80s. Today is on 50% in senior colleges.
Thank you, Councilmember Rodriguez. We will now hear from Councilmember Williams, followed by Councilmember Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your testimony. I know the Haitian Institute was brought up, but I just wanted to bring it up again, how important it is to me. I think it's the #1 thing that the college has asked us to push as well. So I just wanted to get can I get my 30 seconds back?
You can get your 30 seconds back, I promise. I apologize, Council Member. I just wanted to acknowledge some very, very important guests that we've had. They are the guests of Majority Leader Van Bramer and Council Member Drum from PS 150Q in Queens. We have 60 wonderful, marvelous children that are on their way. This is the hearing for your college, okay? So everybody wave. Welcome to City Hall. They are so well behaved. What are you council members doing to them up there? Thank you and welcome, and we hope you enjoy the hearing. Council Member Williams.
I don't think I was ever well behaved in my entire life. So what is it? People are always never shocked when I say that. But yes, so it's very important. I just wanted to just hear again where we are with it, and I wanted to understand how much money does the administration, does CUNY itself, put in to the institutes as a whole?
Right. Council member, I do not have the figures in front of me, but in fact, I just asked about that, including the Haitian Institute, because it's one of our very newest institutes. It is obviously located at Brooklyn College. I did call the provost actually a few weeks ago to discuss the funding of the institute, so I'm collecting statistics. I do know that there is a director, and I want to, be sure that the director is supported. So, I will get back to the council, not just with information on the Haitian Institute, but also the Mexican Institute, an institute I work very closely with now through Professor Ramona Hernandez, the CUNY Institute for Dominican Studies, which is a thriving institute and does enjoy university support. But my sense is there is an imbalance in support for the different institutes, and I want to understand that better and see how we can move forward.
Well, thank you. I just want to reiterate how important it is. I think there's only one funding line that is for the director.
Director.
It's not it's an institute in name, and he's doing great work. Without additional funding, it's not going to do the best that it can. Right. And I just want to shout out my colleague, Assemblymember Radnice Bichat, who really pushed to get it done. And I thank the chair of the Finance Committee for asking the questions previously. I know she's supportive of trying to get it done.
No, thank you for that.
Yeah. My governor has put on a particularly progressive coat that I think he can take off and does anytime he wants to, a progressive coat. So one of the things that he's pushed as progressive is this Excelsior program. My understanding is it's not all it's cracked up to be. And one of my biggest points of contention is that you have to graduate in 4 years or you have to repay the money. I want to just get on record how many CUNY students graduate in 4 years.
In 4 years. I'm going to ask the Associate Provost for Academic Affairs, David Crook, to help with that. David, what are our latest figures, please, on that?
In our bachelor's programs, the four-year graduation rate is somewhere in the range of the mid-30% range right now.
I'm sorry, can you just start from the beginning because your mic was off and we need to get it in the records.
So right now, of the first-time freshmen who start in a bachelor's program, about somewhere in the mid-30s complete in 4 years. But one of the big changes that we're hoping to bring about is a change in the number of students who, instead of taking 12 credits every semester, take 15, so that percentage would go up.
And what about undergrad?
So that's the undergraduate rate, is students in bachelor's programs.
Bachelor's or master's?
Yes. It's bachelor's, yes.
And so bachelor's about 35%?
Somewhere in that range.
All right, so we can say 60 to 70% do not.
under current conditions, but we're, like I say, hoping that we'll be able to increase the percentage of students who take more credits so that that percentage will go up.
I would have liked to hope to see the changes before the program came in. So there's no way that I would believe that that's going to have a huge a huge impact that way. Took me 7 years to get my 4-year degree, 4 years to get my 3-year degree for various reasons, but I made it through. I'm more of a typical student than a non-typical student, and so it frustrates me that this program is touting something with pictures of Bernie Sanders that is not something that I believed he would have wanted. Also, I believe the income challenged students who need the most, it's not going to affect because they need books and room and board, and that's not what they're going to get. Is it your contention? Some people are saying one of the primary reasons that it's so low is because people have to pay for the tuition, and they're saying if they pay for the tuition, then they'll be able to graduate faster. I don't believe that because I think people have to pay for additional things to survive, as well as not everybody can take a full cost load to graduate. So what is your contention to that notion that if we just pay for the tuition, the graduation rate, the 4-year graduation rate will change?
Councilman,
I'm
yes.
sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Councilmember Williams, I just want to, you mentioned a really critical word that I want to address, which is textbooks.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
So in the state budget, Excelsior got so much attention that something that was unnoticed but was very important to us at the university was there's $4 million that was funded for what was called open educational resources.
Right.
And this is something that we're really excited about. It's going to help provide online textbooks and course materials to students. And I just want to, again, be on the record. We did submit a request to the administration for a city match of that $4 million state allocation so that we would have $8 million. But I'll turn that over.
Yeah, yes, I want to add that we've estimated the average textbook costs of CUNY, one of the costs that you've alluded to correctly, is $1,200 a year. That's an enormous out-of-pocket.
I'm sorry. I know my time's up. Just repeat that again.
The average book cost for CUNY students is about $1,200 a year.
Wow.
So through this Open Educational Resources, or OER initiative, we're going to be creating courses and perhaps even whole degree programs with zero textbook costs. And that is something that the governor funded generously, the state funded generously, and again, we're looking for the cities to do this. And CUNY right now, in our associate degree programs, in our community colleges, we are developing whole programs where you can get through your major with zero textbook costs. This initiative will be the wind in our sails.
Thank you. That's excellent to hear. I think my other concerns are still valid, and I think nationally, if we looked at the 4-year graduation rate, it's ticked kind of the other direction. So that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gibson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning. I think it's still morning, maybe. I don't know. Good afternoon. Good to see you guys. Thank you so much. So I, too, certainly as a SUNY and CUNY graduate, a twofer, want to echo the sentiments of many of my colleagues. I think the Excelsior program is obviously a good approach and a good measure, but we always have to look at the final details, and sometimes the devil is always in the details. And certainly, I would never support any effort where there is an underlying and unintended consequence to keep young students out of the system. And when you hear, some of the high costs of tuition and books and all the other incidental costs, I mean, these are some of the things that keep our children and our students behind. So as many of us, myself included, are still trying to understand what Excelsior means, alluding to Chair Barron and some of the questions that she had, I guess my general concern is capacity. Many of our CUNY schools, both the senior colleges and community colleges, colleges are bursting at the seams. And that's why this council is so supportive of your capital projects. So I represent the Bronx, and we have an incredibly aggressive allied science building that we are pushing for Hostos Community
Yes.
College, which is absolutely needed. And even going beyond that, we're short about 90,000 square feet to date. Bronx Community College is another incredibly successful institution
is.
in my backyard, and I was a part, as well as Councilmember Cabrera, of the opening of the North Instructional Building, and now a lot of the campus-wide utility projects that really need to make BCC a lot better as it could be. So understanding all of that, I mean, and we're looking at obviously what Excelsior will do with more students coming into the system. How are we going to address the spacing, capacity, and then obviously faculty is going to be critical. We don't want to have more students in classes where we're getting to 30 students in a class. So are these the conversations that you're having? And if so, where are we going to get the support? Is it coming through CUNY, the council, as well as the state? How is all of that going to work?
We have many, many more students than we have capacity for. However, we are growing. And let me talk about the schools that you mentioned. Hostos in the next 6 or 7 months is going to get 25,000 more square feet, which is across the street from the school at the post office. Bronx Community College has space, but it's not the right space, so we're renovating space. So those are the two examples of the schools that you mentioned, but we have that in every community college. We're adding some space, and we're looking, and we're going to renovate space to create more classroom space and more meeting space for students.
Okay, so obviously we're still having ongoing conversations because a lot of that I know we can't deal with in one fiscal year, of course. So obviously it will span over multiple fiscal years.
Councilmember Gibson, I just want to,
Sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to state that you raise a good point that we do have some of our campuses that are at or near capacity. But again, I just want to stress that, you know, at CUNY, what we do is we make sure that everyone that wants to come to us finds a home somewhere. We have 24 campuses, and, you know, we're not in the business of turning folks away. So while some of our campuses, are at capacity, there are others that can certainly take on more students, and we want more students to come to CUNY, as was mentioned earlier. So
Okay.
I just want the council to be confident that you have that commitment from us at the university.
Okay, I have 3 questions I'm going to spit out literally. Someone mentioned in the 4 years of a student attaining their bachelor's degree, 35% of the students graduate in 4 years, and I wanted to know, do we have a breakdown by race and ethnicity so that we can obviously look at some of the factors within that number? I wanted to ask about ASAP's expansion. Someone mentioned that. I wanted to see how that would roll out. And then also, I believe that CUNY is working with the City Department of Education on working on adult literacy. So we have, in many of our school districts, we have students that are in transitional housing, and we're working with parents and libraries. NYPL is also a part of that. And I believe CUNY has a role in that, so I wanted to find out where you fit in that. And I also wanted to ask about the Fatherhood Academy, which I'm a huge fan of, and I know we have at Hostos, where we are with that, and are we looking to expand? Right on time.
Okay.
That was impressive.
Okay, yeah.
I did it.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
You want to go?
Sorry.
Okay.
No,
Just for ASAP space, the city has funded capital and expense for us to look at every single campus and expand space or renovate the space that we have for every single campus that's going to have ASAP.
Okay.
2 campuses are getting additional space. That's Hostos and BMCC. The other campuses, we're looking at space that they have. You know, if you look at the libraries of today are very different than the libraries of 10 years ago. There are more meeting spaces now, and we're looking at libraries all over campuses to renovate what we have and make it more useful.
Okay.
So that answers a little piece of your question.
The overall
Okay.
expansion for ASAP is we want to be at 25,000 by 2019.
Okay.
And I want to recognize John Mogilescu and Donna Lindeman, who are here, who birthed the program and continue to run the program and do a spectacular job doing that. In regards to your first question, Councilmember
Four-year
Gibson,
graduation
the four-year
rates by
graduation rates,
demographic groups. David?
we have that, David? We could provide that?
I don't have the data broken out by race available now, but we'll get that to you.
Okay.
But while I was sitting here, I had a chance to double check the numbers, and it's actually not 35%, it's 25%. Just wanted to put that on the record. So,
Oh, that's even worse.
Yes, it is.
Okay,
so we'll get you the data broken
Okay.
out by race.
okay, thank you. And Fatherhood Academy?
Fatherhood Academy, very glad that you mentioned that. It started at LaGuardia Community College, was funded by the city, which we were very grateful for, and as you mentioned, expanded to host those. So, it's showing terrific results, and, we are encouraged by it and would like to expand it more if we could.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, council member. We're going to follow up with questions to you on capital projects. In the years that I've been a council member, I feel like that's always been lock in step with a lot of our conversations, a little less so this year. So we're going to just send those questions over to you.
Sure.
But I wanted to quickly ask about the base aid increase.
Yes.
And how you will be using the additional state support within your system.
Right. So for the community colleges in the state enacted budget, the state included a $50 base aid increase for our community colleges. With enrollment increases and expected enrollment increases, that base aid is going to generate about $11 million in additional funding to our community colleges. So we're very happy that we have another base aid increase. It brings us up, I think, to over $2,700, almost $2,750, close to it per student. And those funds will be invested in our community colleges. Overall, at this point, with our state support and our city support for community colleges, our community college budget is expected to grow about 3% over the current fiscal year. So we certainly would like more support for our community colleges, and we know that we need to continue to invest in them, but it is trending in a positive direction.
Great. So do you see this going into programming, or what does this help support within your system?
It becomes part of the overall community college budget. So we don't prescribe to each college, you're getting a $50 increase, here's what you must spend it on. We know each of our community colleges are unique and have their own
So
set
it's like
of
a
needs.
general operating
Yes,
bucket? Okay.
correct.
Okay. Thank you. And I have additional questions, but we're just going to get those to you. If you can get them back
Sure.
to us, because we would like the
Absolutely.
answers before we do our handshake.
Absolutely.
Councilmember Barron, Chair Barron.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have lots of questions, but I want to consolidate them. I just have to make a statement in regards to the Excelsior Scholarship Program and state that if my colleagues aren't aware that there aren't as many blacks in the middle income as there are whites, so consequently, not as many blacks will be able to apply for the Excelsior Scholarship. That's just a statement of fact.
That's right.
So I don't know that my colleague is still here, but I certainly will have that discussion with him afterwards. And in terms of the program, if the governor had made this a scholarship program that's called First Dollar In, then it would be equitably applicable to all. And everybody would have a chance to get the scholarship for tuition, and then students could find other ways to help get assistance for the other needs that exceed what the tuition needs are. So it should have been a First Dollar In scholarship program, which brings me to the point. A student who applies for the Excelsior Scholarship and receives that scholarship, and then at the end of the first year is not able to maintain 15 credits, will then be saddled with a debt because it's now a loan. Will he or she have to pay that loan? How will that loan?
No, if a student, in the example that you raised, Chair Barron, if a student is eligible for Excelsior and receives it, and then they become ineligible,
Right.
then they just don't receive the award. Where the loan part of it comes in is for students who graduate, who received Excelsior and then graduate, the expectation is that they will live in New York State
But
for
if
4
they're
years.
no longer, if they got it for 1 year and weren't eligible for year 2 and 3, what happened to that first year that they received the loan? The scholarship?
It's paid for.
It's paid for.
Yes, paid for. Yeah.
That doesn't turn into a loan. The only way it turns into a loan is if someone
doesn't
upon
make sense to me.
graduation does not stay in, does not
Right.
live
Live and work.
in New York State
Or
for
live or
the
work.
amount of time that they got the scholarship for.
Okay. I have to think about that a little further. But I have several other questions, and I'm just going to ask them quickly. What is the Pathways to Higher Education program? Is that the Jails to Job program? What are you doing for the foster care children? I know there were, I think, 40 students that were had their tuition paid for and had living accommodations
Right.
and a Metro card. What is that program? How's that program intended to expand? And I had another question, but I can't think of that.
Sure.
Yes.
If it's okay with you, Chip, I'm going to start with the foster care program.
The foster care program was 40 students last year, and now
Yes.
we're increasing it. We're doubling it, and it's going to be at Queens College, City College, and
College of
CSI.
Staten Island, yeah.
Queens City and,
CSI,
College of Staten
College of
Island.
Staten Island.
oh, CSI. And I remember my other question now. Have you found a permanent location for Gutman College? What are your plans? I thought that the initial plan was that it had to be permanently located within a certain time frame.
Well, the lease expires in 2020, and we are now looking at the possible use of North Hall, which was associated with John Jay, and other possibilities.
And the
Can
other
I-
question was about the Pathways to Higher Ed. Is that the Jails to Jobs program, or are they different, or how are they related?
They are related, and the Pathways to Higher Education is going to be administered by John Jay College. I know we have a lot of John Jay students here today, so I want to give them a shout. But the Prisoner Reentry Institute at John Jay College will be administering this program, and it's designed for folks who are leaving incarceration to try to get them on a pathway into higher education.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Madam Chair, could I add something? Yes. Could I add something? Chairperson Barron asked about 2 hours ago about the commitment plan and the commitment plan and the capital strategy plan. The capital strategy plan is 10 years. The commitment is 4. One
I
is a
thought so.
subset of the other, and the real
One is a
question-
sub, I was trying to
Well,
understand
the
that,
reason-
so if you could
the-
explain
The
that.
reason, the numbers don't match.
The numbers don't
The
match.
reason why the numbers don't match is that the commitment plan starts with this year, and the 10-year starts with next year. So the numbers are not the same. That
Thank
was your
you.
question, right?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilmember Gibson?
Thank you again. I just had one final question, and first I wanted to commend you. In light of the federal administration and all of the work that this council has been doing, the fact that we are continuously promoting us as a sanctuary city, never before has there ever been a time when immigration is the thing we talk about, but the thing we continue to commit to. And CUNY has had an incredible track record through the CUNY Citizenship Program, and I am one of your fans. Not only because my district has benefited from CUNY citizenship, and we continue to every single week, but now we're seeing obviously a higher demand. And not just pathways to citizenship, DACA cases, but just in general, families just having questions.
Yes, being fearful.
So I wanted to ask, in this budget cycle, are we looking at expanding CUNY citizenship for all the right reasons? Because we know that there's so much anxiety and fear in our communities, and we as a council are working really hard with the mayor, making sure that we protect our schools, our public institutions, our courthouses. I mean, everything under the sun, because we just want to make sure that we reassure families that they're protected whether they are an immigrant or not. So I just wanted to ask about the CUNY Citizenship Program, and will we see an increase?
So, council member, I'm just going to interject.
Oh, I'm
We
sorry.
gave CUNY citizenship now like a good 10
we did?
minutes, yes.
Oh, okay, I'm
And
sorry, I
Alan
missed it.
Warnick,
Well,
the
just
CUNY
add my name to the
celebrity.
Just add my name to the
Yes,
conversation.
we
Okay.
will gladly do that. We know you're a champion and how important this is also for your district. CUNY expressed the need for additional support, so we're going to be looking into that. But I hope.
So when you say additional support, not a letter of support.
Not a letter of
How much
support.
are we talking?
That's right. Thank you. Thank you, council member. Thank you, chair. We're going to have some follow-up questions from
Yes.
both of our committees, anything that wasn't
Absolutely.
answered today. That concludes the first part of today's budget hearings. Thank you again to Vice Chancellor Rabinowitz for testifying today. As a reminder, the public will be invited to testify on Thursday, May 25th, the last day of budget hearings, at approximately 1 p.m. in this room. For any member of the public who wishes to testify but cannot make it to the hearing, you can submit your testimony to the Finance Division on the Council's website, council.nyc.gov/budget/testimony, and the staff will make it a part of the official record. We will now take a 15-minute break, after which we will come back and hear from DYCD. Thank you.
Oh, I don't care, even though they're new. Yes. Oh, I did. You know what, it's worth it to be done with. This was actually, some of the right questions here. Oh, it's tough. I thought we were okay.